Welcome back to Caps Hockey Review. Two more games to discuss with you this fine evening, just about an hour after the Caps Bruins game has ended. So, Johnny on the spot for me today. Doing good. That aside, a couple things about the channel. I'm going to kind of change the structure a little bit. And what it's going to be, I've noticed in some past videos, with the exception of this last one where I intentionally stayed away from it, I'm going to get away from blow-by-blow analysis of games. I mean, discussing every little goal and basically re-commentating to the viewers what happened in the game. People watch hockey enough, and if you're that curious about what actually happened in the game, go watch the recap, whatever it might be. I am here to review, to discuss, and that's what I'm going to get more into. I kind of veered away from that a little bit, not entirely by intention, but it's what happened, and I'm shifting away from it. I am getting back to discussing, I'll still talk about, big goals and big plays, but not as much. So a little more of, an overview of the games, and more importantly, discussing my reactions and my thoughts to it. So, and what it means for the team moving forward. Also, my valued viewers, I am asking you guys to take a little action here. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you have questions, if I know there's fans of other teams that watch these videos, if you'd like me to talk about anything else happening in the NHL to do with your team or not, I'd be happy to throw a segment in, take a little spin around the NHL. There's tons of big things that happen all the time that I'd love to have an opportunity to talk about. So if anybody would like to hear my thoughts on anything else happening in the NHL, leave a comment below, hit the like button, subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. All of that now done, we are sliding into two more games. The Winnipeg Jets, we'll start with, making their only visit to Washington this season, barring a Jets-Caps Stanley Cup final. Interesting game. And I say that because there was a first for the Caps this season in there, and I'll get to that. But this was a win the Caps, I think, really needed. I mean, I talked in the last video. They were on a skid. They're, losing 5 of their last 6 games, and they've been pretty consistently a 500 hockey team over the last 6-8 weeks. That is, like I said, it's a concern, and I talked about it in that last video. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But this was a big win for the Caps. The reason why these losing skids really do have an impact on a team. I mean, players and coaches say all the time, the answer's in this room, and we're not worried about it. We're just going to play our way out of it. That's fine. But there's a certain feeling of, disappointment and that, here we go again thing. And you start feeling like you're just doomed, and it's, you're just destined to lose or destined to struggle. So for this team to get this win at this point is huge. I mean, it's a good, maybe a good building block to kind of get moving back in the right direction. There have been a lot of troubling trends for this team, which I talked about in that previous video also. The previous video was real negative. So if anybody's a fan of, tearing down the teams, check that one out. But for the Caps, this game is interesting. I already said that, but it's interesting for a few reasons. I guess the big news out of that game, Dmitry Orlov earned himself a hearing with the NHL's Department of Player Safety for kneeing the Jets forward Nikolai Ehlers. 2 games. I certainly don't think it was intentional, And, I mean, he was going for the shoulder, and Ehlers made a great move to kind of avoid it, but Dmitry still caught the knee. Kneeing is kneeing. It's, it's obviously it's very serious. So 2 games for Dmitry. He doesn't really have much of a history. If he had a history, I think we'd be looking at possibly 5+. The other important thing to note here, Ehlers was injured and did not return to the game. So injury suffered on the play by the player who was hit. That's also a factor in this. Agree, disagree with it. I mean, obviously it wasn't intentional from the look of it. Intent is, important, but there's still the action that occurred. So I think the NHL did have to do something here. That's one of those you can't just let go. So I know it sucks. I've seen some stuff on Twitter and other social media about the Caps never get a good bounce from the NHL Department of Player Safety. Didn't get another one on this one. So maybe Wilson won't get suspended for that hit tonight. But I'll get into that. Once we jump into Boston. So what else happened in this game? Why do I keep saying this was an interesting game? The Caps won a game in overtime. If you didn't hear that, I am so jazzed about this still. The Caps won a game in overtime. Huge. This team has struggled so mightily at 3-on-3, it is not even funny anymore. And the fact that they won is making me almost giddy at this point because they needed this win so bad. And once it goes to overtime, I know I'm sitting on my couch saying, oh, God, here we go again. Well, or at least we got a point, but the Jets are going to take one off them here. Nope. Great play by Kuz. Puck possession, I've talked about it, is key. That 3-on-3 puck possession is everything. Not rushing your chances, setting up a good opportunity. Or if you're Kuz, take the puck, go end-to-end, wrap it around the net, and put it right in front for Wilson. Wilson does the rest. Good game. I mean, yes, it had its moments, and the fact that the Caps were outshot for a good chunk of that game is concerning, but we'll nitpick later at stuff like that down the road. If they, if maybe they start to win some more games consecutively. But jumping into Boston. I've got that feeling again, folks. Good Lord. I don't know what it is about the Bruins. I don't know if they're that good and they've turned the corner. They didn't have a good start to this season. They didn't. That's not Caps fan being angry that my team lost. No. The Bruins had a terrible start to the season, but them and the Caps have almost done this kind of flip-flop. The Caps are really trending down. The Bruins are really trending up. I guess. For this game, I'll look for positives here first. I don't really have much, but, I mean, the Bruins came to Capital One Arena a week and a half ago and beat the wheels off the Caps. I mean, this was an absolute disgrace of an effort by the Capitals in that game. The penalties, just the inability, the lack of compete was the worst I think we've seen all year. So now you have to go to Boston. I mean, this team beat the brakes off you. They smoked you in the playoffs last year. You got to find an answer. You got to go to Boston to do it. Well, Caps get the first goal. That's important. I've talked about that. But the same thing is what happened in D.C. The Caps get out to a first period lead. The Bruins tie it, and then the Bruins take the lead. So both games, the Caps giving up leads. I guess I can say in this one, the Caps did not go to any intermission trailing. They went to first intermission, tied at 1. Second intermission, tied at 2. So the good thing here is you're not leaving a period down a goal. Now, it certainly would be great if they could get up a goal, but at this point, let's score more than the opponent by the end of the third period. So, like I said, I'll nitpick on all that kind of smaller stuff if and when this team finds a way to string together more consistent efforts. And consistency is a big concern. I'll talk about that here in a little bit. That third period in Boston. Yikes. That was, I don't know what that was. That was not the Washington Capitals that I remember from the beginning of the year. That was a team that got thoroughly outplayed in every area of the ice, in every area of the game. Now, keeping in mind, the Caps took a lot of penalties in this game. This is becoming alarming as well. The Caps were one of the least penalized teams in the NHL through the first few months. The amount of silly, ridiculous, stupid penalties are starting to pile up again. They're starting to look like that team that was the most penalized in the NHL a couple of years ago. And it's not even a good penalty to take in most cases. If you haul a guy down on a breakaway, yeah, I mean, you might get a penalty shot out of it, but that's an okay one to take. But, you know, slashing behind the play, offensive zone penalties, I mean, we can argue about the Nick Dowd one and that it was maybe a little bit soft, but still a penalty. So the Caps have to stay out of the box. The Bruins power play annihilated your penalty kill. One of the best penalty kills in the NHL, that Bruins power play chewed it up and spit it out in Washington last week. And the power play executed for Boston again. David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy. Caps have to get better. Have to stay out of the box. I think that's a huge piece of this too. It's hard to generate momentum when you're constantly killing penalties. And it just seemed like these last few games, it's just trip after trip after trip to the penalty box. And it has to stop. It has to change. So, ugly game. Ugly finish in Boston. I guess the one good note I can say, the Bruins, I'm adjusting here. The Bruins did take that 3-2 lead. The Caps answered very quickly with a goal from Nick Backstrom less than a minute later. That's always a good thing. I mean, not allowing a team to savor any kind of a lead, but the Dowd penalty that ends up leading to the game winner with less than a minute left. Another power play goal, the Charlie McAvoy goal. Disappointing. I mean, a disappointing way for a hockey game to end. I'm sure, definitely exciting for Boston and their fans. The building was on fire when that goal went in. The Caps. Effort has to get better. Consistency has to get better. I mean, we can talk about the third goal, that Bergeron goal, and you can't. Oh my gosh, that thing crossed the goal line by a whisker, and it was off Kuznetsov. Kuznetsov was doing all the right things, back checking, being that defensive presence that a center needs to be in the D zone, and it goes in off his stick. That's one of those where you do the right things and it just doesn't quite work out for you. So I kind of blew through that game here, but it has to be better. And I'll jump into the consistency concerns here because this seems like a good segue. Good win against Winnipeg. Bad loss against Boston. The consistency issues continue. Now, I've talked about it. Anybody who's watched these videos or even read some of the writing back when I did that, consistency has been an issue for this team for the last few years. This is not a new trend. This is not a hiccup, a blip on the radar. This is a continuing trend over a period of years. This team's inability to consistently produce night in and night out for 82 games. Now I get it. Every team's going to have their slumps in a season. That's what we're hoping this is. But I've been sitting in this exact spot. Well, not this exact spot, but I've been sitting here saying this at just about this point of the season for the last couple of years. They've struggled with consistency lately, but let's hope they'll play their way out of it. It's just a blip on the radar. It's just a speed bump in a long season. This has become a trend. This is exactly why Todd Reirden was fired. This is why Peter Laviolette was brought in as the head coach. Why? Laviolette demands the best effort from every player every single night. And if you're consistently getting that best effort from every player every night, I don't think consistency would be this big of an issue. I'm not going to point to individual guys because I think they're just not quite putting it together. And I get it. They have a lot of guys hurt. They have a lot of guys sick. But so do plenty of other teams this season. I mean, that can only be the excuse for so long. I mean, yes, this team, we can't fully judge them until everybody's healthy, but the question is, will everybody actually be healthy this season? I mean, Oshie, Shiri have been in and out for a good chunk of it. We haven't seen Mantha in quite a while. Backstrom has missed most of the season so far, so I mean, this is tough. So it has to change. It has to turn around. This Boston game, after another game with the Boston Bruins, I'm sitting here with this feeling. And it's getting old. It's getting really old. Now, the Caps had the Bruins number for so many years. I mean, they had a consecutive streak of like 7 or 8 years where they hadn't lost a game to Boston. That's long gone. I mean, Boston is dominating this regular season series. They dominated that playoff series. I don't know if it's just the Bruins, but Caps could not get it done tonight. It was kind of a disappointing effort. They were outshot by almost double. I definitely have my concerns about this team moving forward. Now, granted, no Dmitry Orlov, suspended for kneeing Nikolai Ehlers. That sucks. He's going to miss next game too. He got 2 games for it. John Carlson hasn't played since the Islanders game, so this was his 3rd straight game out. Those 2 hurt. I mean, when we talk about offensive defensemen, those are probably your 2 best for the Capitals. So missing those 2 is tough. No Oshie. He was placed on IR, so he's going to miss at least the next 2. Just an ugly point of the season. I mean, we were so excited, and I'm kind of rambling saying, but we're so excited at the beginning of the year thinking like, oh my God, here we go. Oh shit, they're going to do it this year. They're just going to keep building. They're not going to hit this slump, and we're right back where we've been for the last 3-4 years. It's frustrating as a fan. So, looking forward. Actually, I'm not going to look forward quite yet. The goaltending situation. Vitek Vanacek has started now 3 of the last 4 games. Samsonov has struggled. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you that Vanacek has been lights out and has grabbed the starting job? No, because I don't think he has. Had that shutout game, that was really good, but this goalie carousel is going to keep turning. And it's, I keep wanting to say it's good, and I keep wanting to find positive in things, but the more this slide goes, I'm really starting to have my doubts about this team and these goalies. I mean, neither one of them has been able to outplay the other for a long enough stretch that we can all sit here and say that, yes, this is our guy. Now, I sat here for a couple weeks and told all you fine people that Ilya Samsonov is the guy. He is the number 1 now. He's the starter. He's finally what we hoped he'd be. Obviously, that was wrong. Cold take by me, I'll admit it. But yes, people talk about, yet 2 goalies. It's a good problem to have, 2 guys battling for the crease. It's not a good problem to have if neither one of them can string together consistent, solid performances. That's the problem here. Neither one has been able to set themselves above the other. It's just like, I don't know if anybody watching this remembers the Caps during the Semyon Varlamov, Michael Neuwirth days. It was the same situation. You had one guy would play really well for a stretch and then struggle. Then the next guy would jump and play really well and then struggle. And they just go like that. But nobody ever really could grab the starting job. It never panned out. I mean, the winner in all that was eventually Braden Holtby. Because Varlamov got kind of good, but they traded him to the Avalanche. Neuwirth left. The Caps are eventually going to have to make a decision on this goaltending issue. And if they get into the playoffs, which I'm going full negative here today, I am not convinced they're going to make it. If they continue on this trend, they are a 500 hockey team through about the second quarter of this season. That's not a playoff team. They have to find a way to right the ship, and it's going to start in net. So we need somebody. We need somebody to jump up and grab it. Zach Fucale showed some real flashes, but really struggled in that Boston game. Kind of got hung up to dry with all the power plays he had to go against, but neither one of V Squared or Sammy has jumped up and grabbed it. So, I mean, eventually they're going to have to make a decision. Like I said, come playoff time, if you get into a Game 7, if you are good enough to hang around in a series long enough to get it to 7 games, that's when you're going to have to pick. Like, okay, season's on the line here. Who do you go with? And right now, I don't know the answer. And I don't think Caps coaching, I don't think anybody on the team knows. It's tough to say. So goaltending has to get better. This team as a whole just has to get more consistent. And I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, is it just going to take getting some of these regular guys back into the lineup and healthy? Maybe. I mean, not having John Carlson to quarterback your power play kind of hurts. But, and the power play. I talked about it after the Vancouver game. They went 2 for 2 in Vancouver, but they're 0 for 6 since. So, again, really good in flashes, but on the whole lately, not very good. So, got to find a way to turn it around. What is it going to take? Well, hopefully we're seeing some signs there. Ovechkin is finding the net again. Kuznetsov is assist, goals. He's finding his way. Wilson, assists, goals. Backstrom, assists, goals. The big guys are starting to produce again. This is what I talked about earlier in the season. I mean, everybody expected no Nicky. Mantha's on IR. Oshie's out for a stretch. Everybody expected Caps to struggle. I think we all did, but the young guys stepped up. But the consistent thing for the Caps was always the big names. Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Wilson, Carlson, Orlov were there. And they elevated their game, and they were the offensive motor for this team. That kind of went away for a little bit, but hopefully it's coming back. So hopefully the Caps will get on the right side of some of these bad bounce games. I mean, this Boston game, for as bad as they played and probably didn't deserve to win, that Bergeron goal, that bad one that goes in off Kuznetsov, if that doesn't count, who knows what happens. So maybe Boston still wins, maybe the Caps win. But got to find a way to get out of this. This is getting awful. I mean, I talked about it at the beginning. This works its way into a team. This can really destroy a season. And I think every game and every period moving forward is going to be the most important game, most important period of this season. Because they have to find a way to put together a consistent effort. That's the point here. So, anger gone. Frustration vented. If you're hanging with me this far, I appreciate it. We went off the rails there. Finally, one last thing in Boston that just set hockey Twitter and hockey social media on fire. Tom Wilson unleashed just an absolute behemoth of a hit on Anton Blidh. Wilson can't even breathe without somebody screaming suspension anymore. And granted, maybe he's earned some of it, but wow. It's not an illegal hit. You can go back and look at it. Blidh drops the pass, looking around, trying to, admire his pass, and Wilson blows right through his chest. Wilson's shoulder just ran a number through Anton Blidh's chest. That number 43 might just be permanently imprinted right on Blidh's sternum. It's not an illegal hit. Just because a hit's big, and unfortunately Blidh did get injured on the play, we don't like to see guys get hurt, but news for everybody out there, anybody who sees this, big hits. A big hit does not automatically make it illegal, dirty, whatever you want to say. Just because your favorite player or a player on your favorite team got laid out does not mean the person who did it deserves to be suspended. And Wilson certainly does not deserve to be suspended for this hit. So, hockey Twitter, blowing up. You can look at tweets going around, and people who are in the know, and I think people who understand hockey and aren't blinded by their Bruins fandom, it's a clean hit. And you can call me blinded by my Caps fandom all you want. It's a clean hit. I've called Wilson out in the past for dirty plays. I have no problem doing it. This was not a dirty play. So, big hit by Wilson. That might be the highlight of the night for the Caps. That was just ugly. So, getting out of Boston, I guess looking ahead. Ottawa on Saturday. Vegas paying a visit to the district on Monday. Looking for 2 wins. Looking for something to get excited about, because this team is turning me into a livid, just angry fan, and I don't like it. So, I've talked about this team before they're like a bad girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. They do all these terrible things that should never be acceptable, and you should be able to walk away, but then they just do enough to pull you back and keep you interested. And that's me every single time with this team. Every time I say, I don't care how the rest of the season goes, I'm done caring, they do something great, and I get emotionally invested again, and then I get my heart broken. So, we'll see. We'll see moving forward. Will this team give us something to get excited about? Will the slide continue? Will Ovechkin, he's pulling up on Jaromir Jagr. I think that'll happen this year. How many goals is he going to score this year? I'm asking you, my dear viewers, some questions. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. How many goals is Ovi going to score this year? Will the Caps get out of this slump? I want to hear from you too. Finally, we've gotten through the rant. We've gotten through the madness. Hopefully, I will be a little bit more positive, maybe a little bit more cheery in the next one. I do have a lot of fun doing this. It's hard to stay angry, but for today, this team is just doing a number. Oh my gosh, just ugly. So, my rambling is done. Hopefully my angry, I don't know what you want to say. Angry, overly invested fan self is gone for a while, stored back away, back down deep inside, and hopefully it won't come back this year, but we'll see. Got a long way to go. Got a slump to play ourselves out of. We'll see how it goes. Vitek Vanacek. Maybe he gets another start. Maybe it's Samsonov. Who knows? One more question for you. Who do you think starts the next game? Leave it below. Leave a like. Hit the subscribe button. I will be back with you to discuss 2 more games against the Ottawa Senators and the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll get maybe a look at Jack Eichel in a Knights jersey. He's skating with the team. He hasn't played yet, though. And anything in the next video you want me to cover, any recent events in the NHL or surrounding your team, leave it below. Until next time, go Caps.